Hi there. Welcome to episode 7 of Interview with a Muse. My name is Maddie Clifford. I'm a writer, musician. I write comedy, I write plays, I'm an organizer. I do a lot of different things. But the reason I created this podcast is to create a community for artists when curiosity is contraband. This process is all about alchemizing loneliness and despair into solidarity and world making. I think that the artistic process holds really important keys for collective liberation, and that's why we have to continue to have these conversations. And if you're an artist or just somebody that loves the arts and you're interested in getting started, whether you're a writer, a sculptor, a painter, a dancer, it doesn't matter, these conversations are going to be extremely helpful to you. And that's why I created this podcast. So if you get anything from this episode, please remember to like, comment, and share this video. Consider subscribing to my Substack so I can keep making these podcast episodes. I have a lot of dreams for this podcast, including like getting a professional videographer, having a team, and I do have some surprises in stores, but I do need your support. So any support helps. So, today's episode, I'm answering questions. And the question that stood out to me this week was, how do you structure your day? Okay. As an artist, how the heck do you structure your day? I mean, there's so much going on. I actually just got to go to a protest yesterday, a hands-off protest in Oakland, California. And one of the things that I did was, even though I hadn't at the beginning decided to go to this protest, I actually was going to get my cabinets painted, but then the guy that was going to paint them, he rain checked, and so I was like, okay, well, now I should just go to this protest. And I kind of made it into an inspiring artistic like date. I don't know if you've all read The Artist's Way, but in The Artist's Way, there's a few structures that are presented that are super helpful. And one of them is to go on a weekly artist date. Okay. One of the reasons people love The Artist's Way so much is because the book provides a structure, which is loosely based actually on Alcoholics Anonymous, which has a 12-step program, but it gives this program, this code. I talked a lot about codes and storytelling and why people need parameters and, codes to live by. And The Artist's Way provides that. It gives a sense of discipline. I think when we hear the word discipline, I get really stressed out. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to commit to something, or it's gonna be somebody yelling at me like I'm in boot camp." By the way, I go to boot camp and I actually really like it, and I don't get yelled at. That's part of the reason why I like it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Structure can feel really overwhelming, especially because we have very busy lives. Most of us can't afford to be artists full time. Um, and although that can be a goal and it is something that people can do sustainably, when you're first starting out or when you're trying to figure out how to do your artistry full time, there's going to be periods where you just have a lot going on. So, how the heck do you structure your time? I like to think of it as birds. Okay. There's two kinds of birds, there's early birds and there's night owls. This is a code. It might work for me and not for others, but this is just follow me with this. Okay. So the early bird gets the worm, right? There's all these little idioms about early birds. And I'm an early bird. I find that waking up early in the morning, when before everyone else is awake, when it's just like this, there's something sacred about this time, and I really feel very productive in the really early time in the morning. So I'm talking about, like, I usually get up 5:45 to 6 a.m. I don't always do this, by the way. This is something that I have to kind of trick my own mind into doing. One way is through boot camp. Actually, I joined boot camp when my schedule gets chaotic and I'm having trouble prioritizing my creative practice and my creative flow. What I do is I sign up for something or I do something that gives me that discipline. So I have to wake up at about 6 a.m. in order to make it to boxing boot camp at 7 a.m. I ride my bike there and back every day. Anyway, this all this structure I created for myself because I know myself enough to know that I am an early bird. And let me tell you, this took a long time for me to fully accept because I think there's a lot of stereotypes about artists, especially artists in my medium, like poetry and also hip hop music, where it's like, oh no, we're night owls, right? It's like team night owls. And shout out to night owls. I don't have anything against night owls. Okay. I'm an early bird, but some people are genuinely night owls. They love staying up super late, to like 3 AM, 2 AM. They just get into the zone. It's like they start working maybe like 7 PM and then they work all night long. There is nothing wrong with this way of working. This is just how your brain functions and just when you feel the most creative and the most productive. And embracing that aspect of yourself is really, really important. Instead of thinking like, oh, I have to push myself, squeeze myself into a set schedule that other people created for me. Because the early bird schedule is I can't speak. Generally, there we go. There's the words, Maddie. Generally speaking, the early bird is how our society is structured, from school to work, you know, that is the structure that tends to be pretty common, but that doesn't mean it's better than what works for you. Okay. So, like I said, I'm an early bird. I accepted that about myself. Toni Morrison is also an early bird. She Pieces of Me is a really good documentary film. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there, but it talks a lot about first of all, it tells the epic, beautiful story of Toni Morrison's life and some of her greatest work, but it also speaks a lot to her process. And she talks about how in the early mornings, she would like get these revelations, these inspirations. And also, it was just the only time that she could devote to her artistic practice because she had kids, she had a 9 to 5 job, and she also was kind of a late bloomer. Kind of. I mean, she accomplished so many things before she started writing these like incredible novels, but you know what I mean. She had to create a life that had structure for herself so that she could be wildly creative when it came to her written work, when it came to the novels that she created, right? And so to answer that question, how do you structure your life as an artist? It really takes a lot of your own internal like excavation. You're going to need to think about what works for you, what doesn't work. And one way to do that is start creating. Maybe you don't have a lot of time to do it. Maybe you can only devote a couple days a week, but just kind of pay attention to when you feel the most inspired. Pay attention to the times when you felt like, oh, wow, that was really productive. I wrote like 4 poems, or I just spent 5 hours dancing, or I just like spent my whole afternoon doodling. Like, think about what were the different aspects that made that possible for you. Was it the time of day? Was it turning off your phone? Right. And you're going to need to figure that out for yourself because there is no one size fits all when it comes to structuring your life as an artist. But I do like the birds metaphor, early birds or night owls. Which one are you? And once you decide, it might make your life a little bit easier. Hopefully that helps. Again, this podcast is something that I am just starting from scratch. And if you could like, comment, or share this video, let me know if it supported you and helps you in any way. I would greatly appreciate it. And remember, our love for one another is more powerful than all the systems conspiring against us. See you next time.